I would have a question, Tara.
Yes, dear one.
Um, the as we receiving, would it be, what I know it would be, to be wise about it all and put wisdom in what we're going to do with what we're going to receive? Would that?
Well, yes, and that is the purpose in the meditation of aligning you with your optimal future self so that your higher self and your future self have some say so that they can add to the elegance and ease. Because you see, from this point in time, let's think about something that you've created for yourself. When you chose it in the past, so it would be earlier than now, and it is something that you wanted to create, and then you created it. When you first chose it, did you know how you were going to create it specifically?
No.
Now, in some cases you did. If it was a project that had a very limited version of how to make it happen. So for instance, maybe you were building a cabinet or something like that, then
Right.
that would be there's a progression of events. Now, that doesn't mean you can't encounter surprises along the way, but we're not talking about those kind of creations, very tangible, physical sort of things. But what we mean is more when you made dramatic life changes. So for instance, when your first baby came along,
Right.
when you became a father.
Mm.
So there were 9 months of anxiety of some sort, and also alternating with joy, maybe even ecstatic joy at the thought of becoming a father. And there may have been moments of dread. And you tried to learn what you could in those 9 months. And then at the end of the 9 months, you thought, I'm not really ready for this.
That's right.
And then the baby comes, and it doesn't matter if you're ready or not, does it? You are as prepared as you can be, as
Yes.
the time allowed. And certainly you wish that you could have prepared more, but you couldn't prepare for an experience you'd never had before.
That's right.
And so it is with when you choose to create something brand new that you've never experienced before, there's that same anxiety, that push-pull between the dread and the ecstatic joy. Now, if you only feel dread about the future, then you have to ask yourself, is this really what I want to create? But if you have moments of some dread, but then mostly joy or ecstatic joy, then you know you're on the right track, because you're anticipating that what you will create will lift you to new states of joy.
Right.
And so to use that as a measure from time to time on the big things that you want to create. So dramatic life changes, that even when you think, well, I've come so far, I can't really think of anything dramatic. Well, the truth of the matter is you are co-creating a new world, aren't you? A world of dominion, something that has never been before. And so there is that feeling, that alternating feeling of dread. What if I can't create it the way I want it? What do I even want it to be? What's possible? I can't even see clearly what it should be. And then there's the sense of joyous ecstasy around, wow, it would be so beautiful to have a world that wasn't grounded in domination or control. That is, and will be based on love. And you see evidence of it more and more in your world. You see deeper levels of caring and concern and expressions of love. It used to be that there was a very narrow definition of expressions of love that were allowed in society. Now it's pretty much accepted that if you are a good person, you're going to show some expression of love for humanity at the very least, and certainly love for your family and for yourself as well. And so life is just becoming more interesting, isn't it?
Well, it is. It is exciting,
It
but
is.
a
Absolutely.
bit nervous at the same time, because you're looking at the people around you, you know what I mean, what effect it's going to have on them.
That's right. And yet they are co-creating it with you. And the more you activate this element of receiving in new ways, the more you will find that you will allow them to be multidimensional, to allow those around you to be co-creating in this at the same level of intensity, that new world. To be more conscious, to choose it as well. That's the exciting part, isn't it? When you allow them to be more real, and then they show up and say, yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking, or I want this version. And then you think, wow, I didn't even think of that. How exciting is that? To have all of you with your brilliance, with your grace, with your love, co-creating, and what wonderful experiences you will all be able to create together that you had never imagined before. Because up until now, the journey has been fairly solitary, hasn't it? Now, some of you have found a partner, such as you and Kathy have. You have found partnership, and in that you have created with more depth and more intimacy than you were able to do all by yourself. But others, to broaden that to a larger group of people, how wonderful that you can now bring that depth of caring that you've discovered within yourselves and acceptance and progress to an even broader community by being yourselves and giving others the permission to also be themselves. You are now finding, wow, this is so much fun. This is so different from what I had so long ago when it really was hard work. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's like the grandchildren. When we had children of our own, it was difficult because you were more concentrated on surviving. Like grandchildren, you can step back and watch them enjoy and growing and enjoying their lives.
Yes, wonderful. And what a gift it is to be a grandparent and to be able to just exude love and acceptance.
No, it is.
To balance the need that the parents have to discipline or set boundaries, to teach the children about boundaries and all of that, and the discord that can happen in that process.
Definitely.
And then the grandchildren have this model of total acceptance, and it stays with them. And in them it awakens, and the parents also strive to be that way more and more as they navigate all these new experiences with their children.
Very nice, thank you.
Certainly so. And so who is next?
Well, Tara, if nobody else wants to ask a question.
Yes, dear one.
You've got that sign on you. There you go. When you were talking to Richard about, being specific about creating the future, that, you didn't know. Now, in the exercise that we did with the other group, the Genius Unlocked group, they wanted us to be very specific about what we wanted, not how we got there, but what we wanted. And then, one of the other approaches that we've learned over the years is where you put yourself into at the end point, the final creation.
Yes, and that is that optimal future self. Absolutely.
Okay, and then you step back and say, well, what must have happened? What were key landmarks that they had to hit, or milestones that must have been reached in order for that to happen? Now, do any of those apply to what you were saying right now?
Well, yes, you see, your logical mind wants to be entertained, we'll say. Okay. You think of your logical mind as a necessity, but we would just say it's really just entertainment.
Okay.
And as you consider it to be entertainment, it does begin to lighten up that requirement that you personally have for it to go perfectly. and that you're not prepared enough, or how can I be prepared perfectly before I take the next step? It becomes a problem for you, doesn't it? In some cases, you say, well, because I can't see it clearly, I'll just stand here until I know enough. And then when I know enough, and it's sort of a tangible feeling you get, you're like, oh, okay, I have enough information now. I've researched everything possible under the sun. Now I'm ready for the next step. And then you take the next step, and something unknown happens anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have had some clues from some of your coaches to say, well, maybe you should just take the action anyway, and you can still prepare, but prepare along the way, because there's always some unknown element. And the sooner you find out what that unknown element is, the better you're off, because you haven't sacrificed too much time. Now, as you know, when you have a belief, a limiting belief, the more elegant way to deal with it is to deal with the limiting belief, and to, how do I change a limiting belief to an expansive one? And in your case, it's the limiting belief of, I have to know enough so that I don't make a fatal error. So it's not just any error. You're okay making little mistakes. But there is this dread that comes up as you head towards a future that says, I will make a fatal error. Something that I can't recover from, or that someone else can't recover from. And so even as we say these words, we lift all that from you, because there is a pattern there. And as we've said, it comes from Atlantis, the destruction of Atlantis. And we see that you say, but aren't I done with that yet? How many times are we going to revisit Atlantis and the destruction? But it is a safety blanket for you. It's the way you keep safe in the face of the unknown, in the face of something brand new. And so what there is to do is to appreciate, oh, I put this in place to keep myself safe.
Interesting. That's that's one of the root causes of the fear of unknown for me, right?
Exactly. And as you're engaging with the unknown more and more, because you are committed to bringing in the new world of dominion, because you are here in your last lifetime, each of you who know that you are here for your last lifetime are dealing with this, confronting what keeps me from embracing the unknown. And we spoke last week about the need for a guardian. And so that relationship with your higher self can absolutely act as that guardian for you. But you may have some other guide. You may have an archangel. You may have a crystal being, an ancient one or a shining one who guides you. There are many, many, many unseen friends available to each of you. And so pick the one who you innately trust, and allow them to be your guide into the unknown. To be that filter, to ask them, is it okay to take this next step? Because part of your pattern is, I don't feel safe taking the next step, because if I have to count just on myself, well, I know I'm going to get it wrong. Now, we're not agreeing with you. We're just saying what the pattern is.
Right.
And what has been reinforced time and time again. And so you don't want to give it up. You don't want to give up the safety and the security of standing in place until you get a signal of some kind. And then you take your action, and then things still go wrong sometimes. Many times they go right, but you don't count those times. You only pay attention to the ones that went wrong.
Right.
And so a guardian, a guide, someone who verifies for you, someone who is more than you, who has the ability to perceive more at this time than you do. It can be your optimal future self. You can work with that crystal that you each hold. Go to your safe place. Simply hold that crystal to commune with your optimal future self, to transmit to them your requests, and to ask them to guide you to the next step, step by step. And with time, with practice, that pathway will open you up to receiving more of what reality has to give you, with more confidence, less fear. And you will find yourself replacing the fear with joy and enthusiasm and excitement. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so, Tara.
And we will work with you more on that specifically, certainly so.
Very good.
All right, and so what time is it?
1:45.
All right, and so we do have time for one more question, if there is one.
Tara, Francis here. Hi.
Yes, dear one. Wonderful. And so tell us, where do we begin with you?
Tara, I think I'm like most people. I'm in a very confused flux right now, and I'd like to move through this confusion. As you know, my business is doing well, but it's being threatened with some qualifications, and I have concerns about that it could, lower the income flow from the company. And so perhaps you could share from your perspective what I can do to keep things moving.
Certainly so. We are well aware of the system that you are talking about, the requirements for getting the most out of the financial opportunity that is there. You are masterful at working a plan. And so you shall be in this case as well. And as you reach out to those who you respect and admire, and to simply ask them, well, how are they dealing with it? What is it that they need to do? And if they have some advice for you. But ultimately, you know that really the path to fulfillment for you is not just to fill the bank account, although you enjoy that as well. But you will get rewarded through helping others, won't you? Through helping others achieve success. So it's not just any kind of help. It's not that you're going to help them by giving them money, which is one way to help people. You're instead going to help them by helping them see the next step. And you have already begun that process of identifying, well, what is it that I need to do? And you don't have to do it all alone. It's silly to think that you have to do it perfectly, or that you have to do it all alone. In fact, in this case, for each and every one of you who are involved in some sort of network marketing business, the key will always be, how can we do this together? How can we help each other be successful? Does that help?
Yes, it does.
All right, and let's talk about the confusion. Because when you think of yourself and the image you have of yourself, confusion doesn't really come into play, does it? And so we want you to take a moment to still yourself and think about who in your immediate environment is confused. And they're not on this call, just so you don't have to look onto this call for who it might be. But who have you been interacting with recently who has confusion as a distraction?
Maybe Gina. Could also be my friend Jerry.
Yes. Yes, it's not Gina.
Okay.
So yes, to think about how often do you mitigate by absorbing someone's energy. And this is a common practice, we'll say. It's not intentional, it's not conscious, but it's common when you are empathic and when you are metaphysically inclined to automatically absorb other people's energy, because you know you have the tools and they do not, to rid the energy. So we want you to call upon your higher self. And each of you can do this while Francis is doing it. It will serve all of you. Call upon your higher self and simply ask in your mind, please lift any energies that are not mine and return them to that person's higher self or back to the environment from which they came, with harm to none. And now we want you to take a moment to ask your higher self to recall all of your energy. The purest form of your energy. To allow that energy to come back into you. You may feel it enter through your crown. You may feel it enter through your feet. Or it may just come into your solar plexus. Or a particular spot where you leaked it. Allow your energy to return to you now, whole and complete. So that you may create from a place of wholeness. For what happens when you accidentally leak your energy is you start to become depleted. And you wonder, why am I so tired? Why can't I get to taking that step I need to take? Why does it take so much effort? So when you have those thoughts, take a moment to recall your energy. And you will find yourself having more and more vitality. And it's okay if you have to do this a few times a day. You are out in the world so much that for you, actually, it has to become a routine. Think about your martial arts practice. In the old days when you were first learning martial arts, and some of the exercises you had to do to become present. Think about your favorite way to do that, what you have evolved over time that includes your higher self, your soul, your spirit, and make that a part of your daily routine again. It's very important for each of you to have some way to balance the energies. Because when you feel depleted, you forget that you are creating your reality. So when you recall your energy back into you, as it re-enters you and fills you up and you relax, then you can have the thought, oh, okay, I have everything I need to create my reality. I'm creating it anyway through allowing. But how beautiful is it when you really feel whole and complete in that resonance of wholeness, to consider, what do I want to create? It changes from fixing something that's wrong to programming for something you'd like that's brand new. Does that make sense?
Could you say that one more time, Tara, please?
Yes, it is on the recording, but we will say it one more time. When you are depleted, you are busy putting out fires, fixing what's wrong. And it takes a tremendous amount of energy, because what you're doing is fighting with yourself. When you recall your energy and you come from a place of wholeness, you are in a place to create something brand new. And so to just keep that in mind, that if I'm trying to fix something that I think is wrong, then where have I given away my energy? Where have I depleted myself? Why am I feeling as though I'm not creating my reality? And so it's important to pivot, isn't it? You have to turn back to your true self and say, I want to get back to knowing I created. I want to get back to my true self. I want to feel whole and complete. And one of the steps I can take to shift the energy is I can recall from my day any energy I expended. I can have it returned to me in pure form to recharge me, to balance and make me whole, and stop the flow out where I'm trying to fix something. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. It says to me that we all need to really work on staying balanced, whole. Yeah. And
yes.
This way, as we go out and put our intentions out, we have much more potential to manifest what we want through a place of balance.
Absolutely. And what you'll find is that along the way, you will have less and less of a need to allow the reality where you have to fix it, to allow the depleting of the energy. You'll find that, oh, I'm not depleting so often anymore. I'm staying in my power, in my resonance longer and longer until it becomes the norm. Wonderful. Great question, Francis. Thank you so much for contributing that question, because it is important for each and every one of you who are here and who are listening to the call.
Thank you so much, Tara.
Certainly so. We love you so very much, and we love each and every one of you in your own way. For what you contribute is glorious. All right, then. And so we'll go for now. Certainly so. We go with love and peace. Until next time, as we bring Katharina back.
Thank you, Tara. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Tara. Yeah.
Thank you, Tara.